Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the agenda of the regular meeting, Freeport City Council, this Monday, January 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. I would declare that a quorum is present and all proper notices have been duly and legally posted pursuant to the Opens Meeting Act. At this time, would you rise for the invocation? Preacher Rosso, would you please lead us in the invocation and the pledges?
Thank you. Lord, we thank you right now for what you've done, what you're doing, and what's about to take place even this afternoon. We pray, Lord, that you would be with us, give us the words to say, that we would bridle our tongues and that we would speak good things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, we have citizen comments, and the first person is Desiree Pearson.
Desiree Pearson, Freeport.
Hold on one second. He's going to fix the mic.
Okay, got
Thank
it?
you, ma'am.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that Pam Dancy has had an offer to somebody for free to move her carport, which she denied. She turned that down. In my opinion, and a whole lot of other people's, that's because then her little show would be over. She likes to get up here and call all of y'all's names and all negative things that you do, but then she cries when the spotlight's on her. But I just want to make sure that everybody knows she could have it moved for free.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Tom Pearson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Tom Pearson, 110 South Front. Councilman Pena, with his childish props, normally late for all the city council meetings, will not likely put this on his social media platform. As a proud stepdad, I'm here to give you some background on Troy Brimage.
Are you talking to the mic?
Troy graduated from Barbaport High School in 1989. After Alvin Police Academy, was hired by Chief Bankston as a patrol officer. Was on the SWAT team and promoted to narcotics sergeant. Later was captain in the reserve unit. Went to work for Lowe's and promoted to be regional manager of safety and security, but that required relocating. Troy loved Freeport. His grandparents and great-grandparents were Freeport residents from the beginning of Freeport. Therefore, he decided to be a business in Freeport. Troy developed 5 business locations. The Hooks location brought folks and boat traffic from other towns. 5 single-family houses and 14 river houses, bringing over $16 million to Freeport in tax rolls. Troy was elected by the citizens of Freeport to 2 terms of mayor and 1 term as city councilman. He was elected to the Westport School Board. He teamed with high school coach to establish the Anchor Dad program, which is still used. Troy purchased the former Rockfront Apartments, known for prostitution, drugs, and a safety hazard to the community. He cleared the land and developed Bridgepoint subdivision. Troy went into a 380 agreement with Freeport administration that simply stated, if Bridgepoint brought in $4.8 million in taxable revenue to the city of Freeport, Troy would receive an incentive. Well, guess what? Bridgepoint is currently on Freeport tax rolls for over $8 million, twice the agreement amount. Then what happened? 3 city councilmen, Pena Puppet Mario, Jerry Kane, and Jeff Pena voted to sue Bridgepoint and Troy. After almost 2 years of being charged over $115,000 by attorneys hired by fired city attorney Chris Duncan, Freeport dropped the lawsuit. Now, why after spending that amount of time and money would the city drop the suit? After many costly depositions with previous city council members, the truth came out. There was no justification in the lawsuit. The truth is, Troy has served the city of Freeport since high school. He's brought the city of Freeport over $16 million in taxable revenue. I've never heard anyone, including Pena Puppet Mario, Jerry Kane, or Jeff Pena, mention these numbers or Troy's service to the Freeport prior to the vote to sue him. In fact, I haven't noticed any of them bringing any revenue or business to Freeport. I hope Jerry Kane was just misled when he voted. Pena owns a building on the square with bricks falling off on the pedestrian sidewalk and has never paid his delinquent hotel motel taxes. As president of the EDC, he squandered $14,000 on tax money on the river for a market. I have all the documents if anybody's interested. All I have witnessed Councilman Pena do is make City Council the meeting a laughing stock of Brazoria County. My hope for the future Freeport City elections are for folks to think about what has happened to Freeport and vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Manning Wilderson.
So I'm not gonna come up here with that hypocritical whitewash nonsense. Troy did nothing but for this city but to fleece it, and he had people to help him fleece it. So let's be honest about it. 16 million, let's talk about the East End. Troy promised to watch the backs of the people of the East End and shove the knife in their back. Let's talk about Troy. That's why I'm here right now, because of Brexit LLC. Why do y'all always come to an agreement to give away the city's money when someone steals it from us? Investigations on top of investigations. We don't get the truth from nobody till the end of the day when you find out about it. Troy did nothing for the city but tore up the city. I'm not going to whitewash it. I don't care if he graduated. I live in Freeport, growing up on the East End, and a mayor that I talked to from here and that rescue place, that river place over there, guaranteed me in my face, we fighting for you, and stood in my face in front of that port commissioner office, and Phyllis said to him, Troy Bimmers had our back from the beginning of this, and stabbed us in our back. You talk about somebody said they care about the city. These people don't care about the city. Troy screwed the man that owes Budget Carpet for his insurance, his jacket, when the man got hurt out of Dow. Facts. Let's not sit up here and talk about Troy was this angel. Troy was a bad cop. He engaged with raping my wife in the 90s in this jailhouse. That's why he left the city of Freeport Police Department. During that time he left. Don't make me have to tell you when he said that time about leave the door open. I want to see it coming. That's why he wanted to see it coming. That man raped my wife.
Mr. Roberson.
No, don't tell me, Mr. Roberson. I have my rights.
Mr. Roberson, no, sir, no, sir.
I still want constitutional right.
Yes,
Let me talk.
you might, but you know, you need to restrain yourself. You need to restrain yourself.
I need to restrain myself.
You need to restrain yourself.
City government that's sitting
Okay.
here lying to the people,
Okay.
covering up to the people, sitting up here praying, they talking to God. That man don't need to pray to nobody. Hell is where you gonna be at, Reverend Winston Rossar. I'm gonna tell you, I'm a licensed preacher. I'm a deacon, but I would never sit up there and lie and deceive the people. Like I said, everybody up here. When this happened with Brexit LLC, I can promise you this. I can promise you with Pluvios. I can promise Ocean and Ocean. Every last one of y'all. If you run again, I'm gonna put you in prison. I promise you this. I promise you.
Thank you, sir.
Don't take it as lightly. I promise.
Yes, sir. What about throwing the first stone? That's
y'all
biblical.
throw the first stone when you did what you did to us on the East End. Y'all throw the first stone when you lied to us in here.
Yeah.
Y'all throw the first stone when
Mr.
Troy was supposed to be going. Y'all throw the first stone when this attorney came in there and tried to cover up for Troy Bimmers, Mr. Bass. That's why y'all fired Chris Duncan. Let's be honest. Y'all sit there and try to blow smoke and you're lying to the people.
Nobody else will be.
No, ma'am. No. He's got 4 minutes, and I'm letting him give us 4 minutes. Anything else, Manning?
That's it.
All right, thank you, sir. All right. Now, Keith Stumbaugh, you want to follow that, Keith?
Good evening, Mayor Bass,
Good
Mr.
evening,
Petty,
sir.
and City Council members. I am Keith Stumbaugh. I am the spokesperson for the concerned citizens of Freeport. The CCF membership has approved the following statement to the Freeport City Council. Given recent events regarding the former city manager, Tim Kelty's firing due to his making an inappropriate payment to a contractor and the fact of his predecessor's theft of city funds, the CCF would like to recommend that to the City Council that some kind of limits or oversight be instituted in regards to the city manager's ability to make large payments from city bank accounts. There are, of course, several ways that this could be accomplished. Some of the ideas we discussed included amending the city charter to change the city's employment structure by removing the finance director from under the supervision of the city manager and make them answerable only to City Council. Another idea would be to revise the payment process to require the city manager to consult with the mayor or assistant city manager or city council prior to making any payment over a certain amount. When we were first discussing this issue last month, CCF member and former Freeport Mayor Jim Barnett mentioned that when he was mayor from 1993 until 2005, he would go down to City Hall every Friday afternoon and sit with the city manager to co-sign all the checks going out. Of course, times have changed and hand-signing checks may not be how the city pays its bills anymore, but there's no doubt that the principle of the mayor being involved and providing oversight in the process of disbursement of city funds has merit. The point is that Freeport citizens are tired of the repeated mismanagement of city money by our city managers that make news headlines and put the city of Freeport in a bad light. It is obvious that something needs to be done to address this problem. Please consider our request and figure out what the best solution is to this recurring problem and make the necessary changes to prevent this from happening again. Thank you, Mary Bass, Mr. Petty, and City Council members for your time and attention.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sam Reyna?
Mayor, Council, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Sam Reyna, and I reside at 2002 North Avenue G. Any Texas business that rents rooms is subject to a hotel occupancy tax, HOT. The HOT is assessed on the state and on the local level. The difference between the two is the threshold at which the HOT is mandatory. At the state level, HOT is owned for any room rented for more than 15 per night. At the local level, HOT is owned for any room rented for more than $2 per night. The local HOT percentage depends on a given municipality, but can range anywhere from 6% to 11%, and is paid in addition to the state mandatory HOT of 6% of the per day cost of rented room. Repayments are due on the 20th of each month for a HOT collected the previous month. As an example, your HOT amount collected in January will be due to the state of Texas by 20th of February. You want to keep this monthly schedule in mind, as Texas reserves the right to levy some hefty penalty fines for late payment. Submitting your HOA payment even 1 day late results in a $50 fine. 1 month late and you owe a 5% penalty. 2 months late, that penalty jumps to 10%, and the state also starts to charge you interest. That's on the HOT. In general, licensing and registration requirements enable local governments to create and maintain a database of dwelling units being operated as short-term rentals. For code enforcement and transit occupancy tax collection in jurisdictions authorized to collect such taxes. taxes on short-term rentals helps generate revenue for communities, sharing a portion of collected taxes with neighborhoods affected by short-term rentals, can fund community improvement projects. Taxation and revenue sharing benefits both communities and local governments. House Bill 2551 relating to regulations of short-term rentals by municipalities and counties. Chapter 250, Section 250.008E, any municipality or county shall apply a local level regulating land use to a short-term rental in the same manner as another similar property. A local law described by this subsection includes regulations on residential use and other zoning matters, noise, property maintenance, and nuisance. Not only is the property owner not paying his taxes, the owner is not maintaining the building. Talking about what a councilman. The property owner is a city council member and should set an example by paying his HOT and maintaining his building. The bricks that fell off the side of the building on Broad Street have not been replaced, and the scaffold used as a barricade is a safety hazard to pedestrians. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Carla Clark.
Carla Clark, 411 Sailfish. Mayor, I would ask you to actually keep the people that are in the audience from stating bad things or rhetoric things to the people that are walking to this podium. It should not be able to happen, and they do it every single time. Okay, the thing is, on the Velasco Bridge and the Old River and Front Street, there are two pieces of property owned there, and neither one of them are owned by the city. I've given these documents from the Brazoria County records to the current city manager to see if those records will be cleaned up per the records to trade them into the city's name. The same issue is down on Miss Lucy Ware's property that we're gonna run into. If you're gonna have title to these places, you have to clean them up and you have to make them in your name if you're going to be executing things that are going on in those areas. You can't take it if it's in the Velasco Drainage District's name. You can't monitor it if it's in the city of Velasco, even though that may have been turned into the city of Freeport. So we need to clean up those things before we go into penalizing people or doing things to people and having people come in here and talk about them. It needs to be cleaned up from the city slice first. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, with that, we'll go into presentation announcements. Number one, wastewater treatment plant status update from Freeze and Nichols Engineering. Mr. Petty.
Yes, sir. Mr. David Hahn with Freeze and Nichols is here to give us an update on that project.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Thank you, sir.
So we've been looking at reducing the costs, as I mentioned at the previous meeting, due to the GLO requirements. So we went through a value engineering exercise. We cannot reduce the cost of the project more than 25%, so there's a cap of what we could value engineer out of $3,436,125. As we talked before, we've been working with the contractor on two electrical options to reduce the scope of the electrical equipment, to make it outdoor panels, cut those costs back. So we have a firm cost from them for the electrical to reduce that by $1,665,000 for the outdoor panels, and then for $289,300 for panels in a building adjacent to the plant. So both those with deferring the chemical feed improvements. For the first one with the panels outdoor, we could reduce the bid price from $13,774,500 to $11,589,500, so just under $12 million. And with the building, it'd be a little less savings, but we could reduce it to $11,965,200, just under $12,000. So that's where we stand on the value engineering efforts as far as trying to get the cost down. The grant funds have not been authorized. We anticipate that will happen Saturday, the 29th, this coming Saturday. And at that point, the bond funds will be available and we could award the project. At this point, until that happens, we cannot award the project without endangering the grant, I'm sorry, I said bond, grant money, excuse me. So we've also submitted a request for additional grant funding. That's not likely, but we felt we needed to make the request just to see if a lot of other projects are running into this, like this project, as we mentioned before, was budgeted in early 2020 before costs got out of control. They're running into a lot of projects that are way over, so we've submitted a request to get additional grant funding, and we'll see if we hear anything positive from that. So with that, if there are any questions or comments.
What's our deadline on approving one of these bids?
Our current deadline, the contractors have extended the bid to February 17th. So right now, as it stands, the next board meeting would be the deadline. However, your following board meeting is three or 4 days later. I've talked to the contractor. He hasn't formally agreed to, but the number of extensions they've given, he felt pretty comfortable that they could extend us another 3 or 4 days to get us to the following council meeting if that were necessary. But at the current, as it stands currently, it'd have to be awarded 2 weeks from today.
And do you anticipate any more savings?
I really don't. We've kind of cut the things we can cut. Any other cuts would kind of get into the performance of the plant. We've taken things that we could do, for example, like putting the panels outdoors, things that wouldn't affect the performance of the treatment process, but would save us money, eliminating buildings for equipment that can be housed outdoors and in NEMA panels that are weatherproof. So I feel we've cut all we can without affecting the performance of the plant.
So 11,589 or 11,965?
Right, and the difference is whether the electrical equipment is in a building or in weatherproof panels outdoors.
And what percentage is this off of the original price?
I don't have let's see, the bid was $13,774,500, and we're down to $11,589,500.
Wish it was 11,000. It's
The one
11
with
million.
the panels outdoors. And with
Okay.
the panels indoors, it goes from $13,774,500 to $11,965,200.
But y'all left a cushion in there, correct, just in case, once the
Correct.
project starts, there's some
Correct. because
issues that come up?
We can change order down to 25% of the total bid amount, so we're not there. We still have some cap to work with if things come up during construction, which they do. You know, we try to minimize and eliminate change orders, but we have to be prepared for that.
So the 11,589 includes this cushion, is what you're saying?
Correct. The savings of $2,185,000 for that is well below the $3,436,125 limit, the 25% cap. So we're well under that.
Once again, how much was the grant amount that we were approved for?
The grant amount for construction of the plant was $4,950,000.
other questions?
Yes, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
The difference between the options 1 and 2 is the building. What type of building are we looking at?
We're looking at a masonry block building, a cinder block building, basically, with a concrete slab.
Okay. And what type of roof?
It'd be a metal seam roof, a single slope is what we designed, just a metal seamed roof with a single slope, just a very industrial, nothing
Okay.
fancy.
Okay. And that is for a 15 by 25 building, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, sir, we appreciate you getting it down as low as you can. If you can still do a little bit more, we appreciate you even more. Might even take care of a traffic ticket or two.
Understand. Thank you, Mayor.
Next item is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine in nature, may be acted upon in one motion. Number 2, consideration of possible action on the approval of city council meeting minutes from January 8th, 2024. Number 3, consideration of possible action on the approval of road closures for Mardi Gras on Saturday, February 10th, 2024. Number 4, consideration of possible action on the approval of road closures for Community Resource Fair on Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Number 5, consideration of possible action approving the date change from the second meeting in February from Monday, February 19th, 2024 to Tuesday, February 20th, 2024 for the President's Day holiday. And number 6, consideration and possible action approving resolution number 2024-2831 for the joint election agreement and contract for election services with Missouri County and the City of Freeport. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, I have a motion to approve by Councilman Matamoros. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Kane. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Council business regular session. At this time, I'm going to move one item up. Item number 14, I'm going to move it up in front of number 7, consideration and possible action approving the sale of Block 46, Lot 13. Mr. Kelty and Ms. Kramer. Mr. Petty, sorry.
Evening, Council. Mr. Austin of Signal Electronics, which is located between City Hall and Sweet Teas, on the 200 block of West 2nd Street, contacted Mr. Petty with an offer to purchase the 50-foot parking lot adjacent to his building, which is owned by the city. In your packet, you'll find that Mr. Austin's offer was for $5,250. He states that he based that offer amount on the sale of a 50-foot parcel that was sold to Tammy Davis in 2018, approximately 6 years ago. A broker's opinion of value was conducted, and the property was valued at $10,500, being double what Mr. Austin offered. Staff fully supports the sale of the parcel to Mr. Austin. They have historically been the only folks using that parking lot. Staff is recommending the council negotiate the sales price, since there's such a huge difference between the offer and the broker's opinion of value. And if y'all decide to sell the property, there's a $275 cost for the broker's opinion of value that the city paid for.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Council, do you have any questions?
Is Mr. Alston here?
Yes. Yes, sir. He's here.
Come on up, sir.
How you doing?
Fine, sir, thank you. All right, anybody have any questions for Mr. Olson?
Well, I think we're on agreement it's a good idea to sell at prices, the point. On my offer to purchase, I included the Missouri County Appraisal District's valuation on my lot, the lot that's 222 West Second sitting on, which is the exact same size. The lot next to it, which is the exact same size as the one the city sold, and the one that Sweet Tea's is sitting on. So the three adjacent lots, all exactly the same size. My lot on 222 West Second and the one that Sweet Tea's on appraises for $5,250 by the appraisal district before they kick in their mass adjustment percentage on there. And the lot that the city sold Sweet Tea's a few years ago is valued at, on Missouri County Appraisal District at $2,100. So I'm offering them $5,250, which is Missouri County's price of the 2 out of the 3 lots, and 1 out of 3 is less than half that price. So I feel like it's a fair price.
All right, sir. Council, do you have any questions for him?
Mr. Olson, right here, George. Do you currently utilize that lot for anything?
We just park in it, and the way it's laid out is that there's 3 overhead doors on the back part of that building that face the city hall, and the only access into those is through that lot. So we wouldn't have any access to the overhead doors in the back of our building or the rear pedestrian entrance without access through that parking lot, which, if it never changes and it's always a park, I guess it'd be fine, you know. But we just feel like, you know, we're just kind of locked in right there, and we wouldn't have any access to our building if we want to ever do any expansion or any growth. The only place our customers can park is in that parking lot too. Occasionally we do some marine electronics. Occasionally we have a customer bring a boat there. There's one sitting there right now for a couple of days while we do some installations and everything. So is that?
Yes, sir. And the last question that I have for you is, are you planning on building on that lot? I mean, I just heard what you said. You're primarily going to use it for parking.
I have no immediate plans of construction on that lot. I mean, I don't know what the future will bring, but right now it's simply that to me, it makes sense that that is attached to the other commercial property, because that's the only access to that side of the commercial property, and it's too small to really develop a separate business on right there. And it just is, it's, like I say, it's the only way. It's just been the fact that it's always been available has made it, we just used it. But if we, if we do any expansion at all, I don't necessarily mean physical expansion of the building. It's a pretty good sized building we're in, but that's the only place we have to have for customers to park and access to our building. And if somewhere down the line that property is, somebody comes along and wants to put something there that's better than for the downtown than what I do, then I'm all for it. But it would still make that property more attractive to anybody who wanted to have an operating business downtown. And it, like I say, the lot has just been sitting there. There's not any upkeep or maintenance to it. So, I mean, we'll keep it up and keep it groomed and everything. We'll probably put some parking blocks there, maybe stripe it or something, dress it up a little bit. But there's no immediate plans to build anything on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Olson?
I do.
All right, sir.
All right, thank you.
No, we,
Got another question?
Councilman Pena has something for you.
Mr. Petty, on this particular property, who maintains this lot now?
No one has maintained it.
Does it require any grooming?
No, sir.
No overgrown weeds on the parking lot?
No, sir.
That's the first question I have. There's a lot of real estate questions that have to be asked when we're talking about prime real estate in the downtown area. And so I would require that we touch base with both the downtown Main Street Board, number one, and also with the EDC, number two, to try to understand if we're going to need that parking lot. Because it's my understanding we have in the budget to replace and repair, remodel the current city hall. And when we do that, we're going to still only occupy one floor, is my understanding from my conversations from Mr. Petty. Is that still true, Mr. Petty?
If we do the full remodel of City Hall, no, we'll occupy the first and second floor like
First and
we
second
have in
floor.
the past.
So we'll have another floor, the third floor, available for lease. And we want to make sure that we have sufficient parking for not only the folks, the residents that come to pay their water bills, but also the prospective tenants and any of their clients. I'm not inclined to move forward with this myself, simply because I think that we need to make sure that this isn't something that the city's going to need here in the short while. I know we keep talking about the tax dollars and how they're going to be spent in the downtown area, and the land giveaways that we've been doing here over the last year. And I'm trying just to do my part to make sure that I educate everybody to understand that all of the land in downtown is valuable. In fact, all of the land in Freeport is valuable. When people say Freeport has so much potential, that's coming from the downside. I want to make sure that the language and the sentence and the branding of Freeport is that we are valuable already.
So are you making a motion to table this item, sir?
I'd like to certainly have more information on it, and certainly ask that
So are you,
we get a bona fide appraisal on this based on some real comps of vacant lots, like the ones right across the street from it.
are you making a motion to table it, sir?
Could I interject something?
Hold on a second.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table it.
Okay, so we have a motion to table. Let me see if there's a second. I'll second it. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so I've been in regular communication with EDC about this for a long time, and they seem to be all on board with it. You know, I mean, we've talked about, I'm also willing to do some improvements or upgrades or whatever to the existing building that would fit in with whatever the given decor was for the plans, for future plans for downtown. So I want to make the property, I mean, the property is one of the best properties downtown. It's well maintained, looks good. It's been occupied for a lot of years. And the value that, if you sell it to me at this value, that doesn't devalue. It doesn't say that property's not a valuable piece of property. All property is valuable. But it's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it today. And I'm willing to keep it in the commercial business and make it available. It'll still be available as parking. If somebody has a business down there and they want to park there, I don't care. I mean, I've been using the city's parking lot the whole time for free, and nobody's saying anything to me, so it's still available as a parking lot. And if the application came up, there was some boom downtown and needed to be as a parking lot, fine. I'm not saying you can make it, keep it as a parking lot. I'm just saying that if it was in private ownership, combined with that property, that block of commercial property would be overall a better asset to the city if it was owned in private hands.
Yeah. And I called you Mr. Olson. Mr. Austin, I will say that your business has been there for a long time, and you've been a good tax supporter of the city of Freeport. So, but right now we have a motion with a second to table it to talk about it a little bit further. But I would say that we're going to get back to you pretty soon. All right, sir. Mr. Davenport?
Yes.
Former mayor of the city of Freeport?
Excuse me for interrupting.
Yes, sir.
Please give me a minute to say something.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, council and mayor. Mr. Austin has been a good business person here for a long time. Before he was there, Captain Elliott had his offshore operations in that building, and he was hampered by the fact that the city owned that lot next to his building. It was an inconvenience for him. And when I was mayor, Intermedics occupied the third floor of the City Hall building. They had several hundred people in downtown Freeport, and nobody ever parked in that lot. That lot has been vacant for 50 years, and it has never really contributed any value to the taxpayers of the community. It's been on the tax rolls for free ever since I was mayor. And I think that Mr. Austin needs your consideration, because he's paying taxes. And if you put on the tax rolls, whatever, $52.50, whatever that is, a couple $100 a year, whatever it is better than it sitting there, and you don't have to worry about maintaining it or the liabilities for it, and you've got a good business there that he's hamstrung. And I don't want to go any farther than that. I'll probably overstep my bounds, but I don't think this is really an unreasonable request, because the city council, the building that the Freeport National Bank gave to the city, it has never really been productive since they got rid of it, and you guys have used it for a long time. And Elliot used it, and sometimes he parked over there and he wasn't supposed to, but now they want to use it, and I don't know what the appraised value is of it, but I can't see any value to me as a taxpayer to take it off the tax roll. So I just think it would be a positive thing if Austin's wanting to buy the building. That's the way I feel about it. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir, Mayor. All right, so we have a motion to table with the second. We will table this issue, and we'll put it on next month's agenda. All right, Lance? Yes, sir. All right, thank you. All right, now we'll go back to item number 7, consideration of possible action on awarding professional engineering services to Kimley Horn. Mr. Petty.
Yes, sir. Staff sent out requests for qualifications and invited engineering firms to submit for consideration to serve as a city engineer under a general services contract. At this time, the recommended firm is Kimley Horn, whose office is in Houston. A detailed RFQ was prepared and sent out, and 9 firms responded. The proposals were reviewed and scored by a committee that included staff. The committee selected the 3 best proposals and invited those companies to make a presentation and be interviewed. All 3 firms were interviewed: Kimley Horn, December 21st, Attico, January the 5th, and HDR Engineering on January the 10th. Kimley Horn was selected to be the most qualified firm across the board to provide these services and to have presented the best case to serve the city in this role. Kimley Horn, we stressed to them in the interview process that we wanted to be a priority and to turn the work around quick. Those are the 2 areas that we focused on, and I have actually been at places that use Kimley Horn, and they've always made that city a priority and turned the work around quick, and were real easy to work with. And Mr. Mike Shelton's here with Kimley Horn tonight. If y'all would like to ask him any questions, feel free to do so.
And tell me about Attico.
Attico it's a little smaller firm, but during their presentation, they did note that any larger projects that come out, like wastewater treatment plants and things like that, that they do sub those out.
So they would be subbing out to a third-party contractor?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Petty on this? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Kane. Is there a second?
Mayor, I'll second that motion.
There's a second by Councilman Matamoros. Any further discussion?
I have no questions, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Petty, this particular request was sent out, and Freeze & Nichols did not apply?
Correct.
Do we know why Freeze & Nichols decided not to apply?
I know
Did they give a formal response?
the communication to Mr. Kelty was that they had some change in their structure of their operations, and they were not going to be able to provide services to the city of Freeport.
They would no longer be able to provide the services they had been providing?
Yes, sir.
Had any of their services been outsourced to third parties
No, sir.
during their tenure as the city engineers?
No, sir.
And have you worked with these guys ever before?
With Kimley Horn, yes, sir.
In what capacity?
City engineer.
And what city, I'm sorry?
City of Saginaw?
Saginaw?
Yes.
And what was your role there at that time?
Superintendent?
And never had any problems with them?
No, sir.
Would you say their level of, maybe I won't ask that question. The other bids, not equally as competitive?
Equally, HDR was close to being equally as competitive. It's just through the interview process, Kimley Horn made it to where they ensured us that we'd be the priority and quick turnaround time on the projects.
How do you measure that assurance?
Just because I've worked with Mike Shelton and Kimley Horn before, and I've had that experience working with them, that they've always done that, and they turned the work around quick.
And have we not had that kind of response with our current engineers?
No, sir.
Okay. So between HDR and Kimley Horn, what was the tipping point for you on going with Kimley Horn to recommend?
Mainly familiarity with the company of Kimley Horn and working with them in the past on numerous projects. Both of them have a great arsenal of engineers, and it was just working with them,
Do you,
being comfortable with them.
well, the next question then becomes, if we were to engage them and award them the contract, what does that spell for Freeze & Nichols and their quarterbacking of the sewer system? Will they be transporting or transferring that over to Kimley Horn, or will they still continue to facilitate that build-out?
No, sir. Under their contracts that were signed, they're required to finish the current projects that they're on. So Kimley Horn would immediately, once we get a contract in place, they would immediately start working on the relocation of the lift station on the east end. That would be their first project that they'd have to tackle.
But they would not touch the sewer?
No, sir. Not the wastewater treatment plant.
Is that a good idea? Do we want any kind of overlap? When Freeze & Nichols, when they complete that project, who will be responsible for the engineering going forward? Will Kimley Horn be, or do we have some kind of assurances and warranties with Freeze & Nichols?
Freeze & Nichols is responsible for their current
Okay.
capacities.
Because it'll be their stamps.
Yes.
Okay, no further questions, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Oh, sorry, Mayor. I just wanted to ask one
Yes, sir,
question.
go ahead.
Mr. Petty, I noticed that they've done some work with the city of Lake Jackson. Did we contact the city of Lake Jackson and see if they were satisfied?
I could not get a hold of the city manager there, but I did contact Michael Leach in Baytown, Morgan Early in Pearland, and Randy Newsom out of Saginaw.
And they were
And
satisfied?
they're all very satisfied with Kimley Horn.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Did they give any kind of letters of recommendation as well?
They just have their referrals.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so calling the question, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? And I'm sorry?
Nay.
Nay. All right, so 4-1 with Councilman Pena being the one nay vote. Very good, thank you. Item number 8, consideration of approving ordinance number 2024-2717, calling the annual general election for the city of Freeport for the first Saturday in May, being May 4th, 2024, at which voters of said city residing in wards B and D shall be permitted to vote for or against the candidates for positions B and D on the city council of the city of Freeport, and which voters of the city shall elect at large a mayor for said city. Clarissa.
I'll take it for staff recommends adoption of this ordinance to hold the election on May 4th, 2024. The ordinance calls the election for mayor and councilpersons for Ward B and D to be held on May 4th, 2024, and establishes polling places and times for voting. This is a required action in accordance with the state election laws. The cost of the election will be approximately $3,000 based on previous elections. And the supporting documentation is General Election Ordinance 2024, General Election Notice in English, and 2024 General Election Notice in Spanish.
All right, I have reviewed it, and I have a couple of points I would like to make before I'm comfortable with it. Section 1 on, the first page, Section 1, election for mayor and wards B and D called. It says pursuant to said Section 301, mayor and city council hereby order and ordain, so that's us, order and ordaining respectively, that the election required to be held in wards B and D for council positions B and D now held by Jerry Kane and Winston Rosso respectively. Then it goes on to say the dates of when this will be held. I think it also needs to include and the mayor of the city in there as well. Got it? Yes, sir. All right. And then the next item that I have is Section 2, letter D. This is the application and filing and no later filing date, no later filing deadline.
Section 3.
It's Section 2, is it Section, I'm sorry, it is Section 3, isn't it? Yes. Section 3, Section D. I know that we get the list off the documents from the state of Texas, and that the filing deadline is January 17, 2024 through February 16, 2024. However, I think our form that we've used for years probably still has some language in it that needs to be removed, because it says an application may not be filed earlier than the 91st day before the day hereof specified for said election, and must be filed not later than 5:00 p.m. of the 61st day preceding the day hereof specified for said election. Those dates under my calculation would be February 3rd, 2024 through March 4th, 2024. And I know that that does not jive with what we get with the state of Texas, so I believe that over the years we just need to cut that out and take out the mention of first, 91st day before, and the 61st day preceding, and just say an application may not be filed earlier than January 17th, 2024, and must be filed not later than 5:00 p.m. on February 16th, 2024. You go with that, Mr. Lawyer?
Yep.
All right.
And those, just to note, those dates should be the 78 days. I'm sorry. If we're looking at the calculation of those dates, 91 should be 30 days before the deadline, and then the deadline is the 78th day before the date of the election. It's unnecessary language. It's probably just clearer for everybody just to put those dates.
The January 17th and February 16th, okay, very good. All right, anybody else have any changes or corrections to that document?
I have a couple of questions, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying that the deadline to file for any candidate in Ward B and D is February 16th, not March 4th?
It's February 3rd, 2024 through February 16th, 2024.
January 17th.
February 16th.
Right.
What did I say?
March.
Did I say March?
I don't
No,
know.
I don't think so. I think I said January 17th through February, anyway. Oh, February 3rd. All right, well, that's my bad. January 17th, 2024 through February 16th, 2024.
January 23rd?
No. January 17th, 2024 through February 16th, 2024.
So February 16th is the deadline for anybody who wants to run for office?
Last day to order general election or special election on a measure, yes.
Now, is that
Last
for,
day to file for a place on the general election ballot.
is that the deadline for us to vote on the ordinance, or is that for the deadline for somebody to apply?
That is the deadline for somebody to apply.
Okay. And then after that, all the candidates are in the bucket?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And I have a second question here, and this here is for the city attorney from Olson and Olson. Tell me if the councilman from Ward C wanted to run for mayor.
I'm going to ask that you not use my name.
Is he allowed to?
I'm going to ask that you not use my title, because I do not want it to be known or anything that I am running. If you're going to run for mayor from Ward A,
Mayor, can I
you
ask
can
this
announce.
question? Is there anything wrong with me asking this question? I don't think so.
You can utilize your
I'm
title.
not using your name.
You can utilize your title
Tommy, if the councilman from Ward C wants to run for mayor,
Again.
is he allowed to?
Mayor, I will ask,
Yeah.
I would, let me do it this way. Mr. City Attorney, if councilmen from Ward A and/or Ward C desire to run for the mayor, what would it do to their sitting position?
So assuming they're otherwise qualified to run, they meet all the basic. Assuming they're otherwise qualified to run, they meet all the basic, the general requirements to run for office. And it depends on how much time would be remaining in their term. If they have more than a year remaining, then it would need to go to an election to fill that seat. If they have less than a year they're remaining, then Freeport's charter prescribes that the council would appoint their replacement. And then if they decide not to appoint the replacement, then it could go to, they could decide to go to an election in lieu of that, but the charter authorizes appointing a replacement for the remaining term. There's a couple of other.
Thank you, sir.
What was a couple of other what?
Well, just depending on the facts of, all of this is sort of fact dependent, how much time is remaining, what other appointments has council made, things like that.
And so for, if a councilman who has less than a year, for example, a councilman from Ward B, don't take any offense, Jerry, please, and or the councilman from Ward D, Mr. Rosso, were to decide to run for mayor, would they also be required, to forfeit their seat?
Yeah, it would, the state constitution prescribes that when you announce to run for an office of public trust, city council. Sure. State constitution provides that when you announce to run for an office of public trust, city council members are considered an office of public trust, the mayor is an office of public trust, then you resign that office upon announcing your candidacy for the subsequent office. In practicality, the ultimate issue to all of this is essentially the appointment process that comes in afterwards, whether that's been adopted by the city. Freeport has adopted that. Otherwise, a special election is required to fill the seat.
So in this case, there would be an appointment, and there would also be an election for those seats, is that right?
No, if there was an appointment, it would be the appointment. And if there is no election, if there's no appointment made, of course, the member holds over until that appointment is made.
So what would happen is that in the case of Ward B and D, if they were to declare their candidacy for another public office, in this case the city of Freeport's mayoral seat, they would forfeit their seat, and the council would then appoint potentially their replacement up until the May 4th election. Is that right? And then after May 4th, a special election would have to be held, since that particular tenure or that office timetable has expired?
They would make the appointment up until whatever, if there's a time period prescribed in the ordinance.
It's only for the term of that seat.
But yeah, the appointment is for the remaining term of the seat.
So the question is that council would appoint or leave the seat vacant. I'm just trying to get some granularity on this and some clarity, I should say, because I'm getting asked all these questions here from various residents in various wards, and I don't have the answers. And so I've been trying to get these answers, and so I'm happy that we're actually having this conversation here tonight. And I'm just trying to understand what the options of the city are, and for that matter, what the residents can hope to rely on in terms of being able to elect their representatives in their respective wards.
I think if you file an application January 17th, 2024, before February 16th, 2024, they'll have the opportunity to elect or select the candidate of their choice if somebody else runs on May 4th, 2024.
So, again, if Ward B or D were to declare that their candidacy is for another public office, another public seat, will the council appoint and also have an election for those seats, or leave it vacant, since there is a
There would not
general
be
election?
an election for those seats because we're up in May 4th of 2024, Councilman Pena.
Okay, so then after May 4th, a special election would have to be called for
No,
those
sir.
seats?
No, sir, because, I'm assuming somebody's going to file for that election, for that spot, and that person would be, then you would have the election on May 4th of 2024 for the seats of B and D and mayor.
Okay, so you're saying that despite, or whether or not a councilman from Ward B and D were to declare their candidacy, we would still have the election for those wards, Ward B and D. Is that right?
If you will vote for this motion for the annual general election for the city of Freeport for the first Saturday in May, being May 4th, 2024, yes, we'll have an election on May 4th, 2024.
So can I get a verbal on that from Mr. Wilson to declare that if in fact any of the candidates or any of the councilmen should declare their candidacy, that the city will in fact still hold elections for Ward B and D if Ward B and D councilmen should declare any candidacy for any public seats?
If,
No,
I understand what you're
No, but I'm asking him.
I understand that, and I'm going to amplify and then let him answer. If we pass this rule, this ordinance that calls for election on May 4th, 2024, there will be an election for Ward B and Ward D and mayor. Mr. Tommy.
Yeah, ultimately, the city's options are what's under the charter with respect to appointment and the election, so the city could order a special election if it's within the time periods. The city could also decide to appoint underneath the charter, so
But again,
I
that-
can't give you any assurances speaking for the council.
Sure, I get that. I just want to make sure that that appointment's tenure would last no longer than May 4th, 2024.
It would be only for the remaining portion of the term.
Okay. And in the case that, well, that answers my question. Thank you.
I want to make sure this is crystal clear. So, if Councilman for Ward B, whose seat is up in, what was it, 3 months, 8 more meetings, Mayor, is that what you said?
That's correct, 8 meetings, well, 7 and a half.
If Councilman for Ward B, whose seat is up in a couple months, decides to run for mayor, does Councilman from Ward B vacate his seat, or does he continue until the election? Because at the election time, at that point, someone would be elected for the Ward B position.
He vacates his seat upon announcing for office. How that vacated seat is addressed is ultimately up to council, but he vacates his seat upon announcing for office. How that vacated seat is addressed is at council's discretion under the ordinance.
I thought it was state law, not a discretionary law.
State law authorizes cities to adopt in their charter for terms longer than 2 years a provision that allows appointment in the event of a vacated seat longer than or shorter than 1 year. Freeport has adopted such a provision, as frankly most cities have. And so essentially state law authorizes cities to utilize the appointment process. It does not require it.
Yes, sir, Mr. Rayner. Actually, you have
Thank you,
a
Mayor.
little bit of time,
Thank you, Mayor.
a little bit of time.
The current charter language on vacancies, when a vacancy occurs in the city council, the remaining members thereof must, within 10 days, appoint a qualified person to fill the unexpired term of such vacancy, provided, however, the city council should not appoint more than one council member in any 12-month period, and in the event of the occurrence of a vacancy in the city council within a 12-month period in which a vacancy in the city council has been filled by the said city council, or in the event that more than one vacancy shall occur at the same time, then in such event, a special election should be held within 40 days from the date the last vacancy occurred, for the purpose of electing the successor or successors in the event that the mayor and mayor pro tem should resign at the same time. The remaining members of the city council or any of them shall have the right and power to issue legal notice of such election to be held and to elect the appointed election officials. Should all positions on the city council become vacant at one time, then in such event, the county judge of Brazoria County, Texas is hereby empowered and directed to issue notice of such election for and on behalf of said city and to appoint qualified persons as elected officers.
Thanks, sir. All right. Any other questions?
One hand in the audience, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Carla Clark, 411 Sailfish. In the last vacancy for Ward D, the city council here chose to not appoint someone, so they called for a special election. So would that not set a precedent over whatever this charter has said about appointment, or is it totally up to the council?
Totally up to the council.
Mr. Williams, what section were you reading from on the charter?
Section 3.0. Anything else?
Section 3.02.
Thank you, sir.
No, I take it back. 3.06.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else in regards to the ordinance?
Yes, sir. One more thing. On page 82, we noticed that Angleton was left off for a voting poll place. So we'll be adding it. It's on the Spanish version.
Okay. Well, I couldn't read that one. I tried.
So we'll be making that correction as well.
All right. Well, good.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to table it so that we can review all those changes for the next meeting, if time allows for us to actually do that.
Okay, we have a motion to table. Is there a second?
I just want to make sure we get clarity.
Is there a second? There is no second. All right. I will make a motion to approve item number 8, ordinance number 2024-2717 with the changes recommended in its entirety. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I'll second your motion.
Have a second from Councilman Matamoros. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Sorry?
Nay.
I can't hear you.
Nay.
I still can't hear you.
Did anybody else hear me?
I can't hear you.
It's a nay.
It's a what?
Nay. Nay.
Nay? Okay, very good. 4-1, Councilman Pena is the nay vote. Item number 9, consideration of possible action regarding the recommendations of the Freeport Charter Review Committee to place items for consideration on the upcoming ballot for the Freeport elections in May 2024. Y'all might remember we had these last year, but Councilman Pena and Councilman Rye wanted to wait until we had somebody from Councilman Ward D to be in there to participate and so forth. And so here we are again. I appreciate the charter review. It was led ably by Sam Reyna this time. It's a thankless job, Sam, but I appreciate you for doing it. It's a dry job. It's not sexy like the planning commission or the board of adjustments or anything like that, but it's something that has to be done. And I appreciate everybody that took the time to participate with you, Sam, and all of your committee members and so forth. So please pass along council's appreciation to them from me. With this, we have actually an item number 9 and then an item number 10, and they're similar in that item number 9 talks about the changes that are requested, and then item number 10 actually puts those changes into a completed charter with an ordinance. So we will look at, so I really don't know why we need to, well, no, I know why we need to, because we got to approve the Freeport Charter Review's recommendation. So they have basically been put out there on the web, but I will go through those briefly. Number 1, shall the charter be amended to authorize City Council to correct spelling, grammar, and punctuation errors in the charter? It's a no-brainer. Number 2, shall the charter be amended to provide that the filling of vacancies on City Council be consistent with Article 11, Section 11 of the Constitution, I'm assuming of the state of Texas? Right? Okay. Number 3, shall the charter be amended to authorize City Council to update all references to end the city's charter to current state law? I had a little problem with the wording on that one. Number 4, shall the charter be amended to authorize City Council to update all references to city clerk to now read city secretary? Number 5, shall the charter be amended to authorize City Council to make all references to persons or positions gender neutral? Number 6, shall Section 3.14 of the charter be amended to accurately reflect the city's annual audit requirements under state law? Number 7, shall Section 3.15 of the charter be amended to require the city manager to publish a quarterly financial statement within 45 days to close of each quarter? Number 8, shall the charter be amended to require the chief of police to establish a place of residency within 30 miles from the city? Number 9, shall the charter be amended to update the qualifications and duties of the health officer to reflect current city practice and the role of a municipal health officer? Number 10, shall the charter be amended to require the fire chief to act as the chief administrative officer of the Department of the Fire and EMS to establish a place of residency within 30 miles from the city? Number 11, shall the charter be amended to allow 180 days to submit signatures for a petition, which is consistent with state and federal law? Number 12, shall the charter be amended to remove the use of the word slum districts and replace with substandard structures? Number 13, shall the charter be amended to update personal interest prohibitions to be consistent with Chapter 171 of the Texas Local Government Code? Number 14, shall the charter be amended to update claims for damages against the city to be consistent with current state law? Number 15, shall the charter be amended by removing this obsolete section concerning interim municipal government? Number 16, shall the charter be amended to update the procedure for amending the charter to be consistent with current state and federal law? Number 17, shall the charter be amended by removing this obsolete section concerning the initial submission of the charter to voters for original approval? Council, do you have any questions? All right, so what we can do is we can take this from the
I have a question.
Okay, that's fine, but let me get through speaking and I'll get back to you. So we could take this as a recommendation and approve the recommendation from the Freeport Charter Review Committee, and therefore we would move on to item number 10, where we actually potentially adopt these to be ordinances number 2024-2718, calling a charter amendment election. Councilman Pena.
Yeah, this is a question here for Olson & Olson yet again. I'm just curious. I know that when the state legislature had passed, I forget the name of the actual law, but where they're basically saying that they're decentralizing the government control from the city to the state, and so that the city no longer has to follow the charter. And I know there was a conversation I had with David Olson, namesake of Olson & Olson, and he had expressed that that whole legislation and the legalese behind it and the actual viable application of it by anybody, for that matter, any city, any municipality, was still in question. And I'm just curious, do we open ourselves to any kind of legal inconsistencies, any kind of ambiguity that we should be considering a little harder and a little stronger based on those recommendations.
I'm not sure what legislation you're talking about.
I'll have to go back to my emails to do that then. I do apologize, I don't have it off the top of my head. But those are the questions that I have here as it relates to adopting state policies, and that it would risk the disenfranchisement of the city of Freeport. And I'm concerned that maybe some of the recommendations might in fact do that.
Actually, I don't think they will, based upon my reading of the legislation and what the Freeport Committee, Freeport Charter Review Committee has done. Therefore, I will make a motion to accept the recommendations from the Freeport Charter Review Committee, and I will ask for a second.
Mayor, I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a second from Councilman Kane. Any further discussions or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Sorry?
Nay.
All right. Clarissa, it's 4-1. Councilman Pena is the nay vote. Item number 10, consideration and possible action to adopt ordinance number 2024-2718, calling the charter amendment election. Now, it falls upon us, as your city council, to determine if we are going to allow these 17 recommendations that the Charter Review Committee has put forth to go forward to be voted on by the populace. So at this time, I will make the motion to accept and approve ordinance number 2024-2718, calling the charter amendment election with the 17 amended requests by the Freeport Charter Review Committee. Is there a second?
I'll second your motion, Mayor.
All right, so we have a second. Now, do we have discussion on these items?
I'll just lean on the point that I made in the previous agenda item, is that I believe that this disenfranchises the citizens of Freeport.
So
Thank you.
now you believe it disenfranchises?
Well, I asked the city attorney, but you decided to speak for him.
Yeah, no,
You're not the city attorney, you don't have a municipality background.
well, that's okay.
You're a
but
family practice, Sandy Lane.
I can,
Let's at least get the money that we're paying, and the value for what we're paying the attorneys.
okay.
Let them give their opinions.
I don't think I heard you say that you were disenfranchised from number 9, but you're disenfranchised from number 10,
I said
which is
both, you
fine.
didn't hear it.
Oh, you
I
are?
said both, you just didn't hear it.
Okay, very good. Very good. Any further comments or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not by Councilman Pena. Way to go, Councilman. Item number 11, consideration and possible action on reallocation of golf course green resurfacing funds to fairway and turf improvements. Brian, you better watch out. We got a nay vote up here. You may not get it.
I think this one will be okay.
All right.
I am asking for, so we were approved in the budget for our greens resurfacing program. I'm asking that be reallocated to or basically a fairway, surrounding turf, and even driving range program. This program would be about a 5-year program. What it's doing is basically just improving the overall conditions of the turf, of the fairways, the driving range and surrounding areas, which is total of about 90 to 95 acres. Reasons for that is, as of last year, we did a little over 30,000 rounds. Takes a lot of wear and tear on the turf. At the same time, we through budget restrictions, it's been tough to actually fertilize or maintain the turf and even the driving range. So with that, the 5-year program, basically you're looking at about $35,000 a year. And what that's going to do is to enable us to fertilize herbicides for these areas. If you've been out, I know Lance, you've been out there quite a bit. Without being able to do this on a regular basis, which has been neglected for quite a long time, weeds continue. And with our restrictions, we're able to fertilize basically once a year in this area, and herbicides in not all the areas, but that's typically once a year too before the budget runs out. Basically
what you're asking is the money be swapped over.
Yeah.
From.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. What that will do is, one, it'll enhance the golf course in that area. Second is, as we kind of talked about, our stage 2 of our pricing. I think with this additional, being able to do this at fairways, we can get to our next step in our pricing, which gets us, we're pretty close, to breaking even at the course. And I think this next step will help. Maybe not fully get us there, but will help. And third, and maybe possibly your favorite might be the fact that this 5-year program will run us about $150,000 over the 5 years, so about $30,000, whereas the other project was approved for $320,000, which will save the city about $170,000.
Yeah. So I have been in awe of your tenure out there at the golf course and have never voted against you, so I don't know why I would do that now, because you're saving us money, and you're actually, but you're actually putting money into it that's going to also improve the bottom line. So, and if you'd have ever said that we were close to breaking even on the golf course, my Lord.
We didn't have those discussions a few years ago.
No. So kudos to you. So
thank you.
With that, I will make the motion to approve this modification, this reallocation of golf course green resurfacing funds to fairway and turf improvements. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously, 5-0. Item number 12, consideration and possible action on reallocation of golf course equipment funds to purchase 2 mowers.
So with this, we were approved for a new slope mower, which was in the amount of $59,000. I'm asking to reallocate those funds to the purchase of 2 somewhat smaller mowers, but it would help us. The benefit for us is we get actually 2 mowers out of it. The slope mower is not in working conditions, and then a zero-turn mower that we've had from the Parks Department, which was kind of a hand-me-down at that time that we got running, and it's been running for another, I think, 5 years, and it's done as well. Once again, I think possibly your favorite benefit would be that this is $59,000 that we were approved for, and the cost of the 2 mowers total will be $36,000. So that would be a savings of $23,000.
$23,000. Yes, sir. All right. Well, very good. And once again, kudos to you, and keep doing what you're doing out there. And I make the motion to approve this reallocation of golf course equipment funds to purchase 2 mowers from the new slope mower. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
All right, I have a second. I think I heard Jerry first from Councilman King.
George beat me.
All right. Councilman, Madam Morris, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, sir. Keep up the great work. Item number 13 is consideration of possible action approving resolution number 2024-2832, amending the personnel policy handbook regarding changes to the city's social media policy. So what is the city doing with the devil?
Well, right now we are overly restricting our employees' speech.
All right, that's just what I want to hear.
So I am recommending approval of the amendments to the social media usage policy. The policy was originally adopted in April of 2020, and it is not in line with recent court cases about what government employers can restrict. Our policy right now talks about a risk of harm. Employees are not allowed to post anything that might present a risk of harm to the city, and courts have said that is unconstitutionally overbroad. We must be able to either show actual harm or that it unduly disrupts the operations or mission of the city.
I've read the policy. I disagree with the courts. I like the lower standard than the actual harm, but I understand it. But I also think that your Exhibit A puts forth some pretty pertinent rules for all employees to follow, and they'll sign this document, correct? And it'll be in their file,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
They will sign acknowledgement of receipt of this new policy.
All right. So I think that there are things, there are items in here that are well said, well stated, and should be easily understood, so.
Yeah, we still protect against harassing other employees, posting confidential information, being rude to other employees or residents. All those policies are still there.
Very good, thank you. Council, do you have any questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I have a question.
All right, but let me entertain a motion to approve first.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 13.
All right, sir, do I have a second?
And I'll second that motion.
We have a second from Councilman Matamoros. Councilman Pena.
Ms. Fisher, thank you for coming up here this evening. Who's going to be the arbiter of what is compliant and non-compliant between the city employees being rude or retaliatory or weaponizing their positions against residents? How are we going to police that?
Against residents is what you said?
Okay, so.
No, hold on one second. You said employees against residents?
She heard the question?
No, I'm just asking you, is that what you said?
I'm asking, how do we continue to protect the residents? And who's going to be judging that?
Protect the residents from whom?
City Hall.
Okay.
It's that simple.
If a resident posts an issue, a problem, whatever, an employee can state a fact, you know, I understand that this is a problem, this is what we're doing, X, Y, Z. What they cannot do is say, are you stupid, idiot? I mean, if it's statement of fact, that's not really rude. So, and as far as who's going to decide that, that would be, it would probably, complaints come to me, and I would work with legal to determine if the complaints are valid and in line with the policy and in line with the Constitution.
Well, you kind of touched on what my next follow-up question was, so thank you for that answer. I think that, like you said, you'd end up going to the city attorney, and I think that this particular policy is, probably needs to be closer, I guess, scrubbed a little more closely, because I think it opens up the city to more potential litigation from residents against City Hall. And I'm just wondering, how are we going to protect ourselves from that other than say, hey, give it to Olson & Olson, we'll pay for it. And now we have employees increasing the risk of liability for the city because of this change.
Well, an employee can post, a lot of this has to do with employees posting their own opinions versus on behalf of the city. And that's covered by our media relations policy. It's covered in the social media policy. I worked with one of the Olson & Olson attorneys on this policy for quite a while. I would make some suggestions. She would come back and say, yeah, but, and this was the policy that she and I both agreed was workable.
You know, I always think about employees saying the wrong things and then opening up the city to liability and lawsuits, and then let's just say we end up losing. But two things happen. Number one, we've just spent more money on attorney fees trying to defend the city against slander, but you also have that damage to those residents that in the case that they were in the right, the resident was in the right, and the employee was in the wrong, that damage was done to the residents, and it's almost kind of like, yeah, it was worth it. We got that resident.
We're talking about, mostly talking about what employees post on their personal social media pages. Anybody that posts on an official City of Freeport page, there are very few people that even can do that. So I'm not sure how the city would be liable for what
They would not
Joe
be.
Blow
Yeah.
put on their personal page as their personal opinion.
Well, Joe Blow, the employee,
Yes.
doesn't have a legal mind to know what to say that's slanderous or not to say that's slanderous. And so now we're just going to say, hey, man, you're on your own. If you screw up and you actually put it in a phrasing that actually does compromise the city, then we're going to deal with you then. And so really, perhaps if we're going to try to push forward with this and adopt this, that the warning should be given to all employees. Maybe you should go to City Hall and ask Olson & Olson before you post to make sure that what you're going to post is not slanderous or opening up the doors for legal liability for the city.
Man, that's a great idea, because then that's going to open up us to a whole bunch of phone charges by Olson & Olson, so that's ridiculous.
It's the same thing.
All right, so, any further questions? If hearing none, I will call the question and ask for a vote. All those in favor of the Resolution 2024-2832, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Councilman Pena is a nay. Item number 15, discussion on payment of hotel occupancy taxes by short-term rental business. Mr. Petty.
Yes, sir. Councilman Pena had met with me and wanted me to put this on the agenda for discussion item only. So it is on there. Mr. Pena.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Petty. I believe that there was a hand up in the audience.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You're approaching on this item?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Form filled out here.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
All right, so I wanted to make a few points about the Freeport hotel occupancy tax.
Can you tell us who you are and where you live first? Christopher Duncan.
I have property 104 Mystery Harbor here in Freeport. So I want to point out a couple of points about the Freeport hotel occupancy tax for benefit of city and for the public. I'll try to keep it brief. Point number one. State law allows the city to collect the hotel occupancy tax, called hot tax, but it's not automatic. The city must pass a correct and effective ordinance first before they're allowed to collect the tax, and that's in Texas Tax Code 351.002. Municipality by ordinance may impose a tax. And then they can only do tax against temporary lodging, which is 30 days or less. And the maximum rate is 7%, and they can choose what type of lodging, what type of entities they want to tax. Point number two, the current Freeport ordinance, which was last amended back in 2003, is defective in that it says basically the ordinance can only collect from a hotel. Can't collect from motel, short-term rental, boarding house, any other options. It says specifically only hotel. Now, in that ordinance, it says hotel is defined by a section of the Texas Tax Code, which is section 351.002. However, that's the wrong code section. There's no definition of hotel in that section. So when they drew up the ordinance back in 2003, they made a mistake. The actual definition of hotel is way over in section 156 of the tax code, not in 351. So when they passed the ordinance, they said you can only tax hotels, and hotel is defined by a section of the tax code, but they cited the wrong section of the tax code. So then if we want to give effect to that ordinance, we need to look at the code of ordinances for the city of Freeport. Say, well, does the city of Freeport have any definition in their ordinances? And yes, they do. They have a definition for hotel, they have a definition for motel, and they have a definition for short-term rental. Those are three different entities. So if you read the ordinance as it is in place now, the city can only tax hotels because they have a definition. They use the term hotel. They have a definition for hotel. So the hotel tax does not include short-term rentals or motels. Now, a couple of years ago, they passed ordinances to require short-term rentals to register in specific rules and things like that. Mr. Pena did a record request for all of the records regarding to the hotel occupancy taxes for short-term rentals. And all the documents, he then paid me and hired me to look through it and look at the ordinance for him. And so I went through all of those. And as far as enforcement goes, as far as making short-term rentals register and comply with inspections and pay the registration fee and so forth, the prior code enforcement official, Ms. Roman, actually had a written target list, and that written target list was only pretty much Bridge Harbor and Councilman Pena. Now, there's a company in, a lot of people don't realize, but the city of Freeport owns a lot of beachfront on the other side of Surfside. And there's a company that has probably 20 units, and they pay their tax. They've been paying hot tax. However, none of those were approached to require them to register. None of them had to go in an inspection. It was only targeted at.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. 4 minutes are up, sir. Thank you, sir.
I don't have it, not according to my time.
4 minutes and 48 seconds.
All right, I request further time if the city wants to know.
I'm sure we'll get it from Councilman Pena.
Okay.
We'll see it on Facebook or something. But
Well,
thank you, sir.
I have drafted a corrected version of the ordinance
4 minutes are up. Thank you, sir.
at the request of Mr. Pena.
Thank you,
and
sir.
So that everybody will be
Mr.
subject to
Duncan,
the
please
tax.
sit down. You have 4 minutes, sir. Come on
Okay.
now. You're
I got
a
it.
lawyer. You know better.
Yeah,
You know the
well, I didn't
rules.
get a warning, so.
Okay, well, no, the warning was, well, anyway,
Yeah,
thank you.
did it at the end that I was wrapping up, so.
Thank you.
All right, very good.
Yes, sir. Very good. Councilman Pena.
Yeah, can Mr. Duncan, you turn in your form, please? Yeah, I want to basically speak to the point that there's been a ton of misinformation, and I don't expect any apologies from either the public and/or residents.
You know what?
Have been looking to
At this
politically
time, I
attack
think I'm
yourself
going to,
as
excuse
well.
me, sir.
Of course you are. You're going to
Excuse me, sir.
silence me. I
No,
get it.
no, I'm not going to
But
silence you. I'm
let the
going to
Fox
make a motion.
newspaper also be
No, no.
correct that this
Councilman
is
Pena?
being misapplied.
Councilman Pena,
And that
I'm
they're
making a
taxing
motion to
citizens
table
illegally.
this issue.
They're
Is there a
taxing
second?
residents, they're taxing residents
there a
illegally.
second?
They're taxing residents illegally.
Second that motion,
Chief,
Mayor. Where are you? Where? Corey Brinkman? All right. Councilman Pena? Shh, please. We have a
don't listen to
motion,
shoo.
we have a motion
You can
to
ask.
table.
You don't have to
Okay?
shush.
We have a motion to table.
Will we have a
Now,
chance
is
to
there
talk about
is there a
this?
second?
And I second that
No
motion.
All right,
transparency.
so we
please.
have a motion for, and we're going to vote on this. All those in favor to table this item to another agenda, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, sir, for voting for it.
Nope, it was a nay.
Oh, it's a nay now?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So it's 4-1 instead of
I love
5-0.
your sarcasm.
Thank
It speaks
you.
of your leadership.
Yes, sir.
And thereof.
Yes, sir, thank you. The city council may deliberate and make inquiry into any item specifically listed as a subsection under itemized sections A through H below. Work session, Councilman Pena, Ward A.
I'm going to gather my thoughts and my temperament before I go, Mayor.
Well, you're going to have a
let
chance to
somebody
go now. If you don't get to go. So go ahead.
else. I love how you abuse your authority.
Thank you. Why don't you
My
run
boss
forward and get
fast.
this seat,
My
and
boss
you can do the
fast.
same thing.
So let me go on to state,
Okay, go ahead.
I have them here. Disenfranchised residents. I feel your pain. First of all, first and foremost, yeah, I will be making a Facebook post to help clarify exactly how the short-term rental rules do apply and how they have been misapplied.
Councilman Pena, you cannot discuss that because that is
It
an
was on
item.
the agenda.
Excuse me, sir.
It was on the agenda.
It's an item that will subsequently be on the agenda because it was removed from this agenda, sir. But please go ahead.
It was tabled, it wasn't removed, it
Go
was
ahead, sir.
discussed. Well, you will get into the legalese and try to silence me, Mayor, as always. But let me just say, I will be providing clarification on all this, and people have been asking, hey, why don't you respond to these falsehoods, this misinformation about short-term rentals? And that's what I'm trying to do tonight, and I will be going forward, and I hope the Facts newspaper, Ms. Hanson, and Mr. Morris at the Facts newspaper report this correctly, and for that matter, fairly, by interviewing every party that's involved, not just a one-sided smear campaign that has been happening over the last 2 meetings at the behest of Mr. Morris.
Hold on.
So
Hold on, Ms. Hanson, did you say something?
No, she doesn't get, I don't get to.
No, she wants to talk.
Oh, so do I get to respond to whatever she says?
No.
then? Well, see, this is the
No,
whole,
see?
the badgering.
No,
I love it. You really got this one-sided little circus act you got going here, Brooks.
And you could have gone on another 5 seconds if you just stopped talking.
Here we go.
There you
So
go.
let me just continue here.
Okay.
Thank you. So, tell you.
No, come on now.
I want to respond to some of the citizen comments. Is that allowed, both in praise and in correction? I can't believe I'm having to ask permission for anything I have to say, but this is the game we're playing. This was never the case before for any of the councilmen. So I'll just say here.
Are you going to wait for my permission or not? Because you have permission. But
Well, I'm sure I'll just gavel down the moment you don't like what I have to say.
all right.
I'll just say that it was mentioned earlier that there was a vote for Mr. Brimage, and that was a unanimous vote by council. And the mayor was the only one that did not vote for that. And why did Brimage resign? Nobody forced him. He just knew what the facts were, and it was backed up by various legal firms that the city had retained. It wasn't one act by me. But you just got to ask, why did he resign? Was he guilty? Did he know the writing was on the wall? You can ask that question yourselves. Now, in terms of investigations, I've been asking for the release of the investigation for all of those lawsuits that we had to try to recoup the money that the city had lost with Bridge. That is public information. The public needs to get that back. And then it'll actually help to answer some of the misinformation, it'll answer some of the questions that are being spread falsely through the public and on social media. Just ask for that report. It's right there. It'll have everything you need to know. And the council knows what's on there. We should just release it. We've already said we're not going to pursue it. This council has decided not to do that. But the report is legitimately in place and it's public information. So I hope that we will release that to the public. And as far as the CCF coming forward and the representative from CCF as it relates to the changes for the CFO, I still maintain that we need to make sure that we have an investigation as to who was a part of that illegal wire and get to the bottom of who knew what and who knew when, and making sure that we replace any employee that was involved. And I've said this publicly before, and I've said this on social media. I think we need to not look to remove the CFO from under the city manager. I think we need to remove the CFO from the purview of the city of Freeport as an employee. And I'll go on record with that yet again, and I've been saying it because of the evidence.
Hold on now. What's going on?
So
All right, well, everybody from here on out, don't say a word, either way. Now, Ms. Clark, you just said something, I said not say a word. All right, go ahead, sir.
And Mr. Allison,
going to be over here pretty soon.
Mr. Allison came forward for his request to acquire that city lot, and I think I made my point on that, but I also want to make sure that I mentioned that Levity is there. He has been a long-term business in the downtown area, and I hope that we could help him build his business going forward without taking a loss or a risk to the city. And I just ask that we do our due diligence on that, and I'm glad it's on the next meeting. And I will also mention here that I want to make a motion for executive session for the chief of police to be present as well.
Well, the chief of police is not here, but do you want
any
to substitute?
any police officer from the city of Freeport Police Department who is a commissioned police officer. Thank you.
Very good. Councilman Kane, Ward B, announcements and comments.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I'd like to thank the city for the invitation to the MLK banquet this last weekend. That's always a joy to go to. And this year was no exception. I had a great time, very educational, and thank you, Lance, for the invitation. Second of all, a couple days ago, we had a power outage on one of the intersections leaving town towards Clute, Lake Jackson. We had some temporary stop signs sitting out there. Lance, were those our stop signs or were they the state's?
They were probably ours.
Okay,
Yes, sir, they were ours.
Do we have enough budget money to buy some new ones? Because there was no reflectivity whatsoever out of any of those signs that were there.
Yes, sir.
And we'll get that taken care of soon, I hope. Thank you. Last but not least, I am excited to say that today I did turn in my application for the May 4th, 2024 mayoral election. I've been on here for 4.5 years or so, and I feel like I've done my best. Voted my conscience, voted my heart, voted the way my constituents have asked for me to. And if it's the will of the city, then I'll move on a couple seats down the way. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Madam Morris, Ward C.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank all the residents who attended in person, viewed online. Also, thank all the residents who spoke during citizens' comments and on agenda items. I too would like to thank our city manager, Mr. Petty, for inviting me to the MLK banquet. Like Mr. Kane said, it was a very informative banquet. There are a couple of things that I'd like for us to consider. These have been brought up from residents within my ward and throughout the city. One is make a, and this is for a future agenda, make an ordinance to take a roll call for our city council meetings. If you're absent before citizens' comments.
I'm sorry, to take a what?
A roll call of our city council members. If you're absent before citizens' comments, you would be unable to partake in the meeting. It's been disrespectful where residents want to make comments and the entire council is not here. Another item is an ordinance or possible charter amendment, which would be at a future election. An ethics amendment to where if an elected official refuses or doesn't pay any taxes or fees to the city, they would be unable to run for offices, or if already elected, unable to perform the duties until all taxes are completely satisfied. And then the last thing I would like for council is we do have some future residential and possibly commercial, is for council to look into possible impact fees for these new developments. Those new developments would put a strain on our current infrastructure, which would then put a strain on our residents. So this is something that we would possibly, I would possibly like to look at impact fees instead of tap fees and things like that. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to speak up too much louder. But those are some things that I'd like to see. And that's all the comments that I have. Thank you,
Thank
Mayor.
you, sir. Councilman Rosso, Ward D.
Yes, I, first of all, want to thank City of Freeport for recognizing the Antonelli's root beer stand. I was able to attend that meeting. I tried to go to all the meetings. I feel that council members ought to be present to show our support to the businesses and the things that go on in Freeport. I want to thank Lance for his quick response. I'm really big on response time. I call it RT, and I've been involved in response time just about all my life. And I can honestly say Lance, when he was assistant city manager, and more so now that he is the city manager, that he is Johnny on the spot when it comes to repairing or answering the call of the citizens of Freeport. And to you that don't know, I want you to listen real well. there is nobody on this planet that can send you to hell. Only God can do that. I want to thank Lance and Brian for the use of golf courts, for the MLK, the aligning of the parade. It saved so much walking for the people involved. We really appreciate it. That's, to my knowledge, that's the first time we ever used the golf carts, and they were a big help. Also, on the behalf of the MLK board, I want to thank the city of Freeport for the blockage of 2nd Street so the parade can go on. I thank the city of Freeport for the park. We were able to use the park. And guess what? It was cold, very, very cold. I wouldn't have been disappointed if they had canceled that, but we went on with it. They also, every year, they allow us to use River Place for the feeding of the band. This year, the band had to cancel, but ROTC was there. Over 100 participants were fed during the celebration at the MLK function that we put on. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Yes, the MLK Day was cold. There's a picture of the Bass family out there standing up with the wind chill, and we made it through the horses. Preacher, we made it through the horses. But I want to end with this real quick. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. And when I became a man, I put up childish ways. And I just want to talk about some childish ways real quick. And unfortunately, it's with my brother, Councilman Pena, because he chooses on Facebook to put out things that he can put out, and that's his right to put out somewhat. But when you deliberately change a person's name, now you know Councilman Matamoros is Matamors. I know you know that because I've seen you put it in emails when you've addressed him as Councilman Matamoros. But on his Facebook page, and now this was sent to me, by the way, this was sent to me. Okay, I don't look at Facebook unless it's sent to me, and please don't send it to me. But this irked me enough to say this, because this is where you're childish, sir. Four times in that letter or statement or diatribe or whatever he's doing, he puts it as Matamoras. M-A-T-A-M-R-A-S-S. Matamoras. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is your city councilman from Ward A. Shameful. Shameful. You want to criticize me, you can call me Crooks Brooks, you can call me Bass Hog.
No, I don't. I don't call you
can
that.
call me Bass Hog.
I don't
you
call
can
you
call
any
me,
of those things.
You know,
I said what rhymes with Crooks Bass is what I said.
Okay. Well, you know, you can call me whatever, but why don't you leave Councilman Matamoros? Excuse me, sir.
The vacation for
Excuse me, sir. May I finish?
What about that?
Can I finish? Can I finish?
You're mad at me for name calling?
No,
you don't,
I'm not mad at you, Jeff. I pray
for
for you.
losing the city's money.
I pray for you, Jeff, because you have a
Pray for
heart
yourself
that is
first, sir.
malignant,
No,
sir.
pray for
You have a
yourself
heart
first.
that is
You don't know my
malignant.
heart.
Yes, I
You're
know
a
your heart.
hypocrite.
I'm
You're
like
a
President
hypocrite.
Bush with Vladimir Putin.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and show everybody the false pseudo-apology that you try to feign, and then when I ask you to own up to it and actually own your actions, you refuse to do it. You want to talk about maturity, sir? You need some growing up.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Once again,
It's just an executive session, can't we? Let's
let's do it because
this is the soap opera. This is the mayor.
This is my comment section.
This is your Facebook.
And I've let you get on with it, but, you know, I'm going to finish up here pretty quick. But, you know, Matamoras, 5 to 6 times, Jeff. That is ridiculous. That is shameful. That is above you.
To you.
So you are
To you.
using it to get out
To you.
kicks, is that right?
To you, are you proofreading stuff?
Okay. No, I'm just
I'm
saying.
happy to send it to
I'm
you for
just-
proofing first.
I am just saying, sir.
I don't use an editor on social
Yeah.
media. There's a lot of typos.
I am just saying, sir, and I'm going to end with this. I
Yes, you
wish
should end
you
with
would
this.
grow up. All right.
It starts at the
So,
top, Brooks.
with that, we
It
go
always
into
starts at the
closed
top
session.
with the
Yes.
mob boss.
No, hold on, I need to have a motion. Yes.
I have a motion.
Mr. Petty has a comment. Is it about Councilman Pena?
No, sir.
Okay, too bad.
Just real quick,
Yeah, he wants to get his jobs in, I get it.
Clarissa Molina did accept the full-time city secretary job, so I just wanted to announce
Congratulations.
that. And I won't announce your other big news.
Oh, he's throwing you under the bus.
I wasn't going to announce your other big news.
I'll announce that she's getting married.
Well, congratulations. But you don't get any time off yet, so in your new position, so get ready for that. All right, so we have a motion from Councilman Pena to ask for security in a commissioned peace officer from the city of Freeport to be in council chambers for executive session. Is there a second? Is there a second?
No integrity.
There is no second. So I will make a motion that we include Lance Petty into executive session. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And all those in favor say aye. Aye. Councilman Pena, do you want to stop talking so you can vote? You voted yes? He can be in here?
Mr. Petty's allowed.
Okay, good. 5-0, unanimous vote. Thank